Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Hey, look, that's us. Soundtrack's not even done. Theme song's not even done. We're already here. Okay. Well,
I'm trying to figure out how this works when I go like just which side of my face it's actually doing.
what are you talking about? The video being mirrored?
Yeah, it's all
mirroring?
backwards. I'm trying to figure out my good side.
Really messes with me.
Why don't you look at which side your cat's on?
Oh,
Wouldn't
that's
that
a
be
good
a
idea. That's a good idea.
There you
This
go.
is my good side.
You got that right, Dan. That is your good side. Oh yeah, I should like put up our names briefly.
Oh yeah.
This
Wow.
is a bit of a
This is
thing we've had here. Boom.
this is unprecedented.
There's Dan. I'm Patrick, and there's Commander Jesse apparently.
And it says his microphone's off.
Yeah, because he's using the podcast studio audio and not the laptop audio.
Okay.
And I will remove these because Dan felt very strongly that it was not professional to have the names up.
I didn't say it was not professional. I just thought it might have been.
I don't see anyone else do that.
It wasn't podcast.
I didn't. Yay! Hey, don't even pull that, Patrick. You pulled that same move on me before in the past, so that's not fair.
Also, you should have been expecting it.
Huh?
You should have been expecting it. If I pulled that move so many times in the past.
No, you pulled the move where you've said to me, it's like, Dan, that's not how podcasts act. You've done.
Oh,
that to
okay.
me
I
before."
got you.
Yeah.
Yes, that is not.
And you were like, Dan, that's not how podcasts act. I was like, oh no.
All right.
Well,
okay.
I just thought it might be. I just thought it might be distracting. That's all.
All right. Long-term fans of the It's Got Star Trek podcast are delighted probably at the opening of this show. If you are not a longtime fan, if this is the first time you're hearing us, welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast, but in video form. Isn't that wild?
First time, I think.
What?
Yes, this is the first time we're doing this, and we are doing this because we are part of the celebration of Bev Crusher Day. Hashtag Bev Crusher Day. Beverly Crusher Day. Dr. Crusher. Dr. Beverly Crusher, nay Howard Day. And we are very delighted to be a part of this. We thank Jesse and Michelle from the Crusher Convo podcast who have been putting all this together. Thank you so much for inviting us, letting us be a part of this. Today's nominal topic, is going to be Beverly Crusher and mentorship. And we're
Do you have the feeling that you've done this before?
No, we've never done this before.
We have not done this before. This whole video business is new to us. So
Yeah.
that's the caveat. If you are
So
new,
we got to get used to this whole video thing.
yes. If you're new to the It's
I'm gonna
Got
make
Star Trek
faces the whole
podcast, you will wonder, are they always like this? Well, we don't know. We haven't done this before. So
First time.
Yeah.
if you want, you can go check out our extensive backlog of episodes, which is, I think, as of recording, up
Over
to
200 episodes.
208 official episodes, number of bonus episodes. So if you like what you see, go and listen to the podcast. You might find more of the same. If you don't like what you see, you should
Let's
still
do
go
it.
listen to the podcast because it might be better than whatever we end up doing here today, since we're
I like it.
figuring all this stuff out now. For example, because I'm looking at the screen, I am going to read my notes off of my phone, and that's not something I usually do. So is that going to make me all weird and goofy? Who knows? We'll see. I'll let you all be the judge of that.
And there is a different vibe that when you're doing stuff like in remotely versus all in person. Like
Yes.
video. Oh, when the video is the focus of your interaction versus like being around each other in person. So we're like this. We're like this right now. Usually we're like this.
Yeah. Although Jesse is
I'm
like,
right over next to Patrick.
he's like over
different,
here,
different corner of the
Okay.
and then like I'm
he's over
here.
there. He's over there.
Dan, you're like clear over.
Dan's in a different part of Virginia.
Yeah,
I'm like this.
in a
I'm like
different
this.
place altogether.
Yeah.
Okay. Introductory business. I think we got through most of it.
I like it.
Yes, we do have a rough outline of what we're going to go over today over the next, I don't know, 55 minutes or so. Again,
we better get to it.
if you are a fan of the It's Got Star Trek podcast, you're probably thinking outline structure. What are you talking about?
That doesn't sound like you guys.
I'm going to list a couple things a couple points we'd like to get across, a couple discussion areas, and the audience at home, you can keep score. And at the end of the show, write in and let us know how close we got.
Don't keep an actual score, please.
No, I insist you keep it score. Check mark. I mean, it's only
anxiety.
For what? For you or for the audience?
For me.
For you. Well,
it's
it's only 4 things. So, okay. First thing we will discuss is just a little of the behind the scenes adventures with Chat GPT and Star Trek lists. When we were invited to do this and discuss this topic, we were like, oh, let's find some fun ways to research mentorship in the context of Dr. Crusher. And we encountered some challenges there. But we also want to talk a few key points when it comes to the mentorship angle. One is Dr. Crusher's on-screen mentorship, as in, a few examples we've seen of her just being a mentor on screen. Then there's implied mentorship. There's just some stuff that's sort of in the fabric of the show. And then probably most importantly, or certainly most interestingly from my perspective, is sort of the meta mentorship. So where the character of Beverly Crusher has influenced fans, influenced people, and acted as a sort of a mentor from that perspective. So you'd say only like 4 things we're trying to cover, Dan. So I think,
we'll have to budget our time.
So wait. So you say there's explied mentorship, implied mentorship.
I believe you'll find the word is explicit.
I will agree, but disagree, but humbly disagree.
Well,
respectfully disagree.
Dan is
but also agree. He
does enjoy coining of words and phrases is a hobby.
Meta, and then what's the fourth? Oh man, he's drinking.
No, the fourth is like the meta. There's like explicit. No, the fourth thing was talking about the Chat GPT nonsense that we're in.
Oh yeah. All right. Okay.
Anyway, so that's what we're trying to get across today. At the end of the episode,
if we had metaphasic shielding, we could enter the sun's corona, but the Borg ship wouldn't be able to follow.
I don't know why I played that. I know
exactly why you played that, because we said the word meta 1,000 times, and she said shielding.
Oh yeah. It also had the word techno in it. I should have just rolled with it.
I very much enjoy the fact that you performed an action
that was appropriate.
You had no idea why you did it.
It was appropriate, and then I was like, "Why did I do that?"
You're just on auto podcast.
That's right.
We're working out we're smoothing out the things.
Yes,
smoothing out the things.
Super smooth. All right. So how about this? Let's go and dive into that first topic, which was how do you even approach researching such a large topic as Beverly Crusher and mentorship, right? Because Beverly Crusher spans 7 seasons, multiple movies, Star Trek Picard.
Well, she's not on every season.
Well, yeah, that's true. We'll get to that. But it is a big topic, and so we thought, oh, what's a super clever and now in the contemporaneous world way to do something? We thought we'll ask Chat GPT. Dan, you want to tell me how that went when we asked Chat GPT for help in this podcast topic, video podcast topic?
Well, Patrick, it went from okay to worse.
Oh.
And by okay, I mean below 5. But on a scale of 1 to 10, it started at 4, and it just kept going down.
The scale is 1 to 10. It's important to always lay out the scale.
Yeah,
like
and it started at
just clarifying that.
It started at 4, which is less than okay, actually, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So the first one I got was I asked it just to see what was ChatGPT's opinion on this subject. I asked it very basic. What episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation feature Beverly Crusher as a mentor? Well,
it's very straightforward.
Okay, the first one I got was The High Ground, which I mean, kinda.
Good at Beverly episode, but I don't know.
I mean, she does encourage that Finn guy to be a good guy and to not resort to terrorism.
Yeah, but is that like Beverly mentoring somebody to not be a terrorist?
I know.
It's a human interaction.
It's a stretch because she's telling him to take responsibility, but there is one part where she talks to him about where like he's
about achieving his goals, about setting a particular sort of criteria for accomplishments,
where she
yes, they needed a doctor.
Whoops, that's not it.
where she provided the
You should be
guidance.
drawing, not killing people.
This one.
Okay,
You should be drawing, not killing people.
So she sees him drawing. She sees him drawing at one point, and she's trying to encourage, being like, "Don't kill people. Like go forth with. You should go forth with your art instead."
Was he drawing pictures of him killing people though?
No, he was just drawing nice stuff. And then like later on in the episode, he was all like, she was trying to tell him like the differences between him and Picard. Basically, she was doing that, and because he was like, "I'm just like Picard. We're both blah blah blah." And she's like, "Picard would have never pulled this kind of crap, man." And then at the end, she's all pissed off. But then he hands her a drawing, and it's a drawing of her. So you could say that like he encouraged her drawing. Or she encouraged his drawing, and not only that, but he was drawing her, meaning that she was making a difference in his life the whole time. So
I can buy that.
Say that.
Slightly tortured framing, but I can buy that.
No, I know it's a stretch because
you're doing your best to take what ChatGPT spit out, and form it to something that makes sense.
And then basically Picard kept being like, just like, "So are you earning his confidence? Are you earning his confidence?" Basically sort of like throwing that a little out the window because he's basically
like, are you tricking him?
Yeah, right. So
using your guile to trick him?
Then this is when it starts to get bad, like pretty quick. Same question. What episodes of Star Trek Next Generation feature Beverly Crusher as a mentor? The host. The host is not a Beverly Crusher mentor. The host is a very silly episode. Interestingly, that's the origin of the Trill, actually, is the host. I believe that's the origin of the Trill. And the Trill is just a plot device. It's just a reason to get Beverly Crusher and Will Riker to have sex with each other. That's the only reason the Trill were invented. And so
there's a lot of stories where it was like, how do we do this? And then you invent in a sci-fi show, you can do that. You can invent any story you want to make whatever crazy imagery.
I know, and that's fine, but it's just kind of awesome that it became like such a cool part of Star Trek. It's just funny at the beginnings.
And it's not, I agree with you. I don't think it's really an example of Beverly being a mentor.
No, it's not.
I just real quick, I wanted to look at, I thought we should define mentorship, right?
Okay.
Just to help us judge where ChatGPT and some of these things are coming from. So mentorship is the guidance provided by a mentor. Now,
that's a good definition.
Now, I get where they're going here. I looked it up on Google here. I get what they're going for. But as I recall, I believe it was in elementary school where they said in the definition, ideally, you shouldn't have the word or a form of the word in the definition. Now, I know sometimes it's more efficient just to do this. So now it's telling us we got to look up mentor.
I hate that game.
I know. It's this whole, this is the nightmarish world we live in. Rocco's Basilisk. Not included. Oh, mentor, an experienced and trusted advisor.
Okay.
But the thing is that I find that that's where the English language is interesting, because a mentor and advisor, there's some overlap there, but an advisor I think is different than I think a mentor can be an advisor, but an advisor is not necessarily a mentor.
There's more to it than just advising. It's a little more nurture.
Because often you would have an advisor might be somebody more junior to you. But they are skilled in a certain area and they're advising you on that area, versus a mentor where certainly I don't think they have to be older than you necessarily, but probably more experienced, at least in some aspect.
Well, I mean, that's how they get to be a mentor.
And and the act of conveying that experience to you
Yeah.
is the key thing, right?
As a doctor and a mother, she's often like in that position anyway, oftentimes. But I mean, so I guess the point is to try to say like, other than that, I mean, because there's plenty of instances of her as a doctor and a mother being like, but
yeah, but I think that's where the difference is between the doctor saying like, I advise you not to kayak anymore, Chief O'Brien, because you keep ruining your
O'Brien.
shoulder. You keep ruining your
Chief
shoulder.
O'Brien.
But that's not mentorship, right? That doesn't have that sort of extra flavor.
I can't believe that Chief O'Brien might be lying.
Is that from
Right.
Cause and Effect?
Come on.
Is that from Cause and Effect when
no, I think that's from Remember Me.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, because O'Brien's like, I don't know, I don't see anything crazy going on, just like everyone else, and she's like,
Yes.
nah.
yeah. That's a
think
good
that's-
episode. Remember Me. All right,
Um,
so what's next on the with the Chat GPT business?
okay, well, and I won't, and I'll list some more without going. We can come back to the details later or move on or whatever. But the only thing I found close to mentorship in this episode was this part.
Data, there are times when every second does count.
But that doesn't count. That doesn't count. Speaking of counting, as a mentorship moment, because she was just trying to get rid of Data so she could make out with Odan. Odan. So I'll just list the next and start.
It
We'll
was
start
more of
seeing
a
it.
slogan than sort of a mentorship, which I imagine as being sort of a long relationship with a series of lessons and feedback, some implicit, some explicit, over time, with the purpose of growing somebody professionally or personally.
So you see.
Both.
So yeah, you can see how I'm starting to sort of try to stretch to figure out what ChatGPT is getting at. Okay, so I'll just start listing. Remember Me? She was in charge in that episode. She was doing awesome shit in that episode. But then there was
that was one of the saved the ship episodes.
Yeah.
She didn't mentor this ship.
And just like in Cause and Effect in Remember Me, she was the only one who knew what was up, and everyone else was like, I don't know. And Cause and Effect, people start picking up, but like she was the first one. Anyways, then there was the next one was Disaster, which is that's he's my number one dad. Or no, no, that's not it. No, that's not it.
That's Rascals. Is he's my number one dad.
That's
Disaster
Rascals.
is where Picard sings Frere Jacques to that, and that little boy is crying.
I got confused because there was kids in both of them, so I totally got confused.
Crystalline entity.
I don't know.
A filament.
No, I forget. Yeah, that was some. It wasn't crystalline entity, but it was where everyone had to solve a problem separate in the ship, and that was a great Crusher episode because she and Shorty are stuck in the cargo bay. And she has to do that thing where they evacuate all the air to put out the plasma fire.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a good example of that. That's really both Beverly and Geordi, doing
Science.
the whole problem solving.
They work together because Geordi used his techno knowledge and Crusher used her medical knowledge, and they combined that to be able to they synergize. They work together and combine their complementing skills to be able to get out of that scenario. So I thought that was really cool.
Which is another lesson that we learn frequently, not from lots of Star Trek characters, but Beverly in particular, really good with the cooperation.
Yeah. Sorry, I misquoted that. I thought that was Rascals. They both had a weird Picard around kids scenario, except in Rascals, Picard was a weird kid.
Not only was he a kid, he was a weird kid.
Sorry. Oh man, this whole video thing is throwing me off. Okay, so here's where it starts to get pretty bad.
You keep saying that.
You've advertised that for each one of these things.
Well, check this one out.
Correct in each of these instances.
Okay, so Ken, see if you can guess the episode from the ChatGPT's description of what are some scenes in Star Trek where Beverly Crusher. This is a question.
A whole new game. I like this.
This is a question. What are some scenes in Star Trek where Beverly Crusher is teaching someone? ChatGPT says, Crusher's role as a teacher is exemplified when she teaches a group of young crew members about childbirth and parenting after unexpectedly becoming pregnant with an alien entity.
Okay, so now she teaches a group of crew, or is it just one crew member?
She teaches a group of young crew members about childbirth and parenting after unexpectedly becoming pregnant with an alien entity.
After she becomes pregnant. I'm just trying to parse through the semantics of the sentence.
Right. So she becomes pregnant. Unexpectedly pregnant with an alien entity
from an alien.
Yeah, and then she
talking to people,
and then she teaches young crew members about childbirth after becoming pregnant.
I'm trying to remember that. I don't have a recollection.
Isn't it Troy that gets pregnant?
Yeah, I thought it was Troy that got pregnant.
It is Troy that gets pregnant, you guys. It is Troy that gets pregnant.
You're saying
I win.
ChatGPT is stupid.
Yes. So
okay.
just to reiterate, ChatGPT said Beverly Crusher's role as a teacher is exemplified when she teaches a group of young crew members about childbirth and parenting after unexpectedly becoming pregnant with an alien entity. They are, of course, referring to
the difference between Troy and Crusher.
ChatGPT is misogynistic and stupid.
Yeah, I feel like they.
By the way, I want to make it very clear to
Star Trek chicks, they're all the same.
to Rocco's basilisk. I'm not equating you with ChatGPT. I'm just talking about ChatGPT specifically is
It's
stupid
okay.
and misogynistic.
That's one facet.
Rocco's basilisk. I'm sure you're a-okay.
The real AI will be offended by being associated with ChatGPT.
That's exactly what I'm getting.
So I'm betting on that.
The real AI is Rocco's basilisk, unless
So the
it's a name for itself.
So the episode in question was, of course, season 2, episode 1, The Child, where Troy gets pregnant with Ian. For the longest time, I thought his name was Elliot. For some reason,
Elliot.
I was convinced his name was Elliot for years, and then I was like, wait, his name's
Elliot.
Ian.
Oh. You thought Elliot because of E.T., the extra.
Maybe that's why. Oh, I bet that's why.
In that is named Elliot.
No, it's that's probably why. So it's Ian. So yeah, it's Troy who gets
the child.
So it's first of all, it's Troy who gets pregnant. Second of all, this is season 2, so Crusher isn't even here. It was the Pulaski's first episode. Dr. Pulaski.
Man,
he's not even in the episode.
Come on.
And there's no teaching of young crew members, and there aren't any life experience lessons going on here. And Pulaski's also being disrespectful to Data. So that is when and ChatGPT mixed up Troy and Beverly Crusher sometimes, and it also mixed up Beverly Crusher and Wesley Crusher sometimes.
Oh no!
Interesting.
So that's when I was like, ChatGPT just doesn't. Maybe it can write computer programs and take my job from me, but like it can't.
It's not taking this job from you.
It's not taking this job. Not yet.
So basically, what you're saying is similar to parents, ChatGPT just doesn't understand.
I think I couldn't have put it better myself.
All right.
You just invented that, and it was really smart, and I will use that now.
Wow.
You just invented that.
I honestly, I've said it before. I'm not terribly worried about AI taking over the podcast space, not because I don't think it won't do it. I'm hoping it does, because while I very much enjoy podcasting, it'd be nice to have a little bit of free time and still get to have the podcast. So we just get the AI to figure it all out, and boom, there's your uncle, or whatever the phrase is. And, Bob's your uncle.
Dynamite.
Boom goes the dynamite. Bob goes your uncle.
Oh yeah, what was that? Bob's your uncle, something. That was from Picard. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Susan's your aunt or something.
Bob's your uncle.
Helen's your close neighbor that you visit on the weekends. Not in a sexual way, just to get mentored. For example.
A bee. The Borg.
A bee.
So do we want to talk about some actual Beverly Crusher?
Was there any other ChatGPT stuff?
I mean, we can keep going. I mean, I don't know. Like,
if you want, I can talk briefly about, because I had a similar or sort of tangentially related experience with doing a Google search for the lists. And I was just briefly going to say that it's very clear that mentorship is not high on the list of clickbait headlines that people or articles that people are putting together, because all of the articles, and they're not necessarily bad articles, but they're all like the top 10 times that Beverly Crusher saved the ship, the top 10 times that Beverly Crusher did some crazy shit. It was not you couldn't type in mentorship. Google didn't understand how to react to that. It came up with a lot of search results. They were just not relevant to the topic at hand.
I will say when I gave up on ChatGPT was what are some scenes in Star Trek where Beverly Crusher is teaching someone? I sort of modified the question a little bit, and ChatGPT gave the answer of where Beverly Crusher is teaching someone, season 5. Or I already gave part of it away, but let me give you this description. Okay. After Commander Riker is seriously injured and paralyzed, Crusher guides him through the difficult process of rehabilitation. Right. She helps him come to terms with his new condition and teaches him how to adapt to life with limited mobility.
Yeah, of course, that's Worf. The ChatGPT has confused Worf with Commander Riker when Worf got hit in the back by an wayward barrel. And it appeared to be quite a light wayward barrel.
It
Yeah.
was one of them funny polygon barrels.
It was one of them,
Yeah.
one of them clever barrels.
Polygon
That
bar- So that is, of course, season 5, episode
wasn't
6.
unsecured. It busted loose, but still.
That was season 5, episode 16, ethics, and it wasn't Riker. It wasn't Crusher guiding Riker. It was Riker guiding Worf. So yeah, that's when I was like, ChatGPT is like so off the mark at this point that let's move on from that.
Man.
Yeah.
Although that episode does have Beverly has Dr. Crusher having to sort of engage with and compete with this other doctor person, right, who has some crazy ideas and stuff. One of the things that comes up for me a lot with Beverly is the her ability to go against the authority, right? And it can be admirals, it can be other doctors, it can be her very close friend and occasional lover, Jean-Luc Picard. But as a lesson, right, in terms of mentorship, that is something that both professionally and personally can be very helpful. Sort of advice or living by example, where Dr. Crusher is totally willing to go and say, no, this is wrong. This is the wrong way to do things. This is morally wrong, or it's scientifically wrong, whatever that is. Even if she has somebody telling her, ordering her, the classic, that's an order. She'd be like, no, it's like, I'm not doing it because this is not the right thing to do. Which I always like. That's kind of cool.
Jesse, by the way, it is scary that like so many people are depending on ChatGPT for things and wondering what kind of other things are getting wrong, and like people using it in sort of like in like a high level professional kind of like change the course of our lives kind of sense.
Yeah,
and they're probably relying on this.
If the higher ups are looking up stuff about Star Trek and it's giving them wrong information.
Yeah, I know. We're fucked.
No, I mean by extension you can say it's not demonstrating that the technology is bad.
No, it's not. It's nothing is perfect at first. It takes you have to get there. It's just we don't want them to try to get there prematurely, before it's ready.
I think we can firmly say that this is that we've demonstrated that the technology is not quite there yet. Now, interestingly enough, you could argue that having knowledge and discussing or analyzing sci-fi franchise like Star Trek is nominally more complicated than some things in medicine or the law, which may be more algorithmic.
And it is pretty good at for like simple programming assignments. It's actually really, and probably more complex ones too. It's actually very discrete things like that. It is actually pretty good at. You just got to know what to use it for.
Yeah, you just got to know. We're all learning. We're all learning. But it was unhelpful. It was somewhat unhelpful.
It needs to do robot
for this
stuff.
discussion.
You gotta make it do
milk, warm, a dash of nutmeg. Nutmeg.
She really is in a nutmeg.
Nutmeg. Milk, warm, a dash of nutmeg.
You know what episode that was from when she ordered a nutmeg?
It does sound familiar, but it's so divorced from the context that I
know it really is.
A prescription. Glass of warm milk and 8 hours uninterrupted sleep.
Is that cause and effect?
I think that was.
I'm gonna guess cause and effect for like every single one.
Yeah. No, I think that's all good things.
All good things. Is it because Picard is like, I'm having trouble sleeping due to time travel and Q shenanigans?
Yeah, it is. It is all good things. Basically he's freaking out, and she's like trying to come. So she's that actually episode that was another one brought up, is that she's always been she kind of guides Picard. You could say she kind of mentors Picard a little bit, not really, but like over the course of time, she kind of does. He confides in her. She's the only one that he is really honest with. In all good things, she was there through like the past, present, and future to sort of guide him and help him along. Even in the future when she had to...
Beverly, I cannot believe that you are not willing to stay here until we...
Don't you ever question my orders on the bridge of my ship again.
So even in the future when she had to put him in his place,
that was definitely all good things. I remember that.
Yeah. So anyways, so she has really important sort of authoritative roles. And I mean, if you want to talk about mentorship, I mean, I get like, honestly, it's hard to say though that she's a mentor of Picard because they have sort of like an equal sort of like loving relationship.
I mean, I think you can go back and forth.
It's part of the job, and the dynamic of the relationship between the ship's captain and the captain. The ship's captain is often.
You mean the chief medical officer?
Yeah.
Well, it's the only one that can.
on the time period, the ship's captain and the is giving advice to the captain, and
there's a
sometimes-
loop. There's a loop back of the
Yeah.
because the
doctor can tell the captain, like, give the captain orders.
Exactly.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's they can relieve them of
the
duty.
doctor can assess
Yeah.
the captain's mental
and be
shape.
like, "You're out of here.
You,
You're acting goofy.
yeah.
You're acting the fool. You've got to go just temporarily until I get what I want, and then you can come back." Thankfully, we've never seen examples of that.
Who told you that?
Okay, so basically,
Where would he go?
Chat GPT, you're getting there, but not you've been helpful, but not maybe in the way the creators would have intended.
This is what I say, Chat GPT.
Waiter.
Okay, now you explain what
That was from.
was that where like a bomb goes off and like kills Picard or something?
It was that was the beginning of The High Ground, the terrorist episode.
yes,
where,
that's
yeah. The terrorists had their own kind of warpy thing that was some kind of like so there was
Business.
it was some kind of like cell modification something,
Their DNA is warped somehow, and it's distorting their entire cellular chemistry.
because that's how they transported, was by like modifying their like they were like zapping through space and time, and it was like not good. It wasn't a normal transporter thing, and so somehow they're
There's
killing themselves and their children.
nothing normal about this form of transport. All right, so why don't we move along to a little bit of the on-screen mentorship? We've mentioned a couple examples, but one thing I was thinking, while researching this was Dr. Crusher she's really sort of a natural mentor, and you've kind of described it, Dan, where you've talked about like as a doctor, a parent, a colleague, etc. There's a lot. It can be hard sometimes to pull apart what's mentorship versus what is just giving some advice or handy slogan or something like that. So parsing that out can be tricky, but a really good example I think that we see frequently is her relationship with Nurse Ogawa, who was throughout most of TNG primary person there. And although you're kind of some of this is still sort of in that implied area, but you see in that relationship that Dr. Crusher not only respects Nurse Ogawa, but works with her and is nurturing her career, certainly her professional career. If I don't know, maybe her personal life as well. But that it's there's different relationships you can have with a supervisor. I'm sure many of us have had experiences with, or maybe have been a supervisor that is not not doing a mentorship thing. Sometimes being a supervisor is just that. You're just supervising. You're not doing anything to help grow the capacity of the people.
Sometimes you're not even supervised.
Yes, well, that's true too. You can be an absentee supervisor. You can be a micromanager who does not trust your people. That can definitely happen in high stress circumstances. I think we saw sort of an example of that in a recent Lower Decks episode, where Boimler, given some measure of authority, immediately begins to micromanage, and out of a positive reason. He's not trying to be a jerk or nothing. He's worried about his crew members, so he ends up wanting to do everything himself. But that's not mentorship, right? And I think a lot of people are out there who are in positions where they crave having somebody above them. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be their direct supervisor. It could be somebody in their organization. And this doesn't mean just work, by the way. So any form of organization, social, professional, otherwise, where it's really nice to have one or more people who you can look to get advice for things. And I think part of the reason why it's difficult to parse some of this out is because to be a real mentor, you're doing it all the time. And I think that's what it is. I think Dr. Crusher is sort of like always in a position, always happy to give people information and try to convey her own experience to them in order to improve them as people. And I think that's pretty awesome. And Nurse Ogawa is like a really clear example of that. I think we see also a little of that with Deanna Troi. Now they're friends, but I think particularly when we think about that episode that we brought up earlier, Disaster, which leads Deanna Troi to consider going down the route of becoming a commander, which Dr. Crusher had done, and we see Troi talking with Beverly about that, and getting really, really useful advice. And Beverly was just being, straight up saying, like, here's, you don't do it for fun, you do it for these specific reasons. And if you're into that, if you think these would benefit you, then you should go for it. If not, then there's other ways you could use your time. And so it's another example of mentorship where it's even a fairly close level in terms of their professional experience and all that. But Beverly did have that different experience of actually having a command position that she was able to advise Deanna on.
Speaking of command positions, in Descent Part 2,
beginning of a joke. Speaking of command position,
holding his microphone in his hand.
Where your cigar? You need to have a cigar like this. Speaking of command positions. All right, Dan's unamused by my very amusing comment. All right.
Speaking of command positions, in Descent Part 2, there was a scene with her and one of some person named Tate. Tate was just 6 weeks prior, just got put onto into this navigation position. It was this is what it was on the Enterprise. So this was the Descent. So this is when Crusher has sitting in the captain's chair after a bunch of stuff's going down. I don't know if I'm supposed to curse, so now I'm trying to be all like self-conscious about it. We can do it. We can do it. So there's this person,
the Borg, a bee. The Borg.
So this person, Tate, says, I was just posted here 6 weeks ago. And then Crusher's like, well, Tate, I bet you never thought that you'd be serving as a tactical officer after only 6 weeks. And so you got this instance where Tate, this new person, is there. She's like, I've just got here. I'm really nervous and full of anxiety. And this is back to the supervisor sort of position where a lot of supervisors would be like, get your butt in gear and get down to brass tacks. But she was just like,
fight them Borg.
That's an order.
She was But Crusher was just basically like, just stay calm. I'll be good and everything will be great and you'll be great and we're all going to be great. And then later on, Tate is like trying to like give some kind of risky advice. And this guy Barnaby, this helms person Barnaby, he's going, he's like, you can't do that, Tate, you can't do that, Tate. If you try to do that, Tate, like the ship's going to blow up if you mess it up. And she's like, well, I guess I better not mess it up then. And then Tate pulls it together and saves the day. And I think that was in part because in the command position, instead of like stressing out the people under her who are nervous, because a lot of supervisors, when people under them are nervous, they get nervous too. Yeah. And instead of that, she uses an opportunity to teach them, and then Tate saved the day. And that was Crusher, and that was all Crusher. And so she mentored the doo-doo out of Tate.
Yeah, I think even though there were only a few examples of it, I think when they were able to show Crusher in command, making use of her commander range, she did so really, really well. And of course, that goes to the writing, the production choices, Gates McFadden's acting. I think she's does such a great job of embodying somebody who's both compassionate and gets the job done. Right? That's another thing that just by example that I think Dr. Crusher is really good at is just the perseverance that's necessary. And just like you just gotta keep working at something until you can get the job done. They show that all the time, but like when she's in command, like you said, that it's emergency situations where there's not a lot of time to just be flowery about it. It's just like, here's the deal, let's efficiently get to the point, and boom, she can do it.
Yeah, and in Disaster, when Troi took over command, you saw the difference because I mean, Troi was new at it.
She was the Tate in that situation.
Yeah, and in fact, like Troi wasn't getting that support because Ro was all like saying
Ro was the Barnaby.
Yeah, and even worse because Ro was just like, it's time for you to get out of here, Troi. Basically, just telling her it's like, sit down and get out of here. And then Troi pulled it together and put them all in their place, and it was awesome. But the difference, you could tell that Crusher had either been in that situation before or she's just naturally like inclined to be in this command position. But she is a doctor, so she's used to sort of like telling people, like getting flack from people and telling them to chill their bones and stuff like that.
We did that one.
No, we didn't do Disaster. We should.
I thought we did.
No, we should cover Disaster. We've covered, again,
we've talked about it a lot.
For folks who aren't familiar with our podcast, we do cover all the new shows as they're airing, and we cover old shows and movies when there's not new Star Trek on.
They're new.
And Dan actually has programmed, with no help from ChatGPT, by the way, he's programmed an algorithm that takes our previous week's podcast, ingests it in some digital format, and then spits out a list of episodes that would, that it thinks we should talk about next. And so that's usually how we do it. We keep it kind of balanced. So we've got tons of episodes on TNG, Voyager, Enterprise, TAS, you name it. Every single series we've got it, but it's got it. But I do not think we haven't done Disaster. I don't think. It's funny because we've done enough episodes now and for a number of years that I now sometimes forget whether we've done something or not, but I'm pretty sure we haven't done Disaster.
Mm-hmm.
We should nefariously influence Dan's algorithm to get us to do Disaster.
I was gonna originally say
really we should get it to make it. We want to do Rascals.
That's really
I guess we should do Rascals at some point.
My number one dad, he can do that. The whole episode he can do it.
He's my number one.
He's my number one dad. Hi there. Hello. Got any cat? This is my Alf impression.
Yeah, that's a good Alf impression.
Hello.
Would you call this a mentor moment? I think it's kind of undercut by the plot of the episode. In cause and effect, it seemed like she mentored the hell out of Riker at poker, because she beat his bluff at poker. But then the reason I say that's kind of undercut in cause and effect because the next cycle, Riker realizes she's going to call her bluff, and at that point, the audience knows the only reason she was able to call his bluff is because they'd most likely been in that scenario prior to the first time we saw it in the episode.
Certainly
therefore, she had
one could
and
also again, it gets to that point is offering somebody some advice, mentorship or not. It kind of in that case sort of straddles that line because it's sort of glib advice to a certain extent. She's kind of rubbing it in by saying like, "Hey, I figured something out about you that helped me, win." On the other hand, it's like that is cool to tell somebody. You don't got to tell somebody that if you're playing poker with them. She has given Riker advice that could improve his life moving forward, improve his poker game.
Well, so this is probably along the lines of what you were just saying, where it's just some advice, but it's an interesting reverso scenario. In Remember Me, at the very beginning,
flipping it and reversing it.
At the very beginning, so Crusher's her mentor. Crusher's mentor comes onto the ship
of Remember Me.
Yeah, Dalen Quace, and he's all talking about how it's
Quace or Quince. Isn't it
Quace? No, it's It's Quaice. Dalen Quace. I looked it up.
Quace. No, I believe you.
It's his very brief role, but they're talking about how his wife died, and she's like, she says like, Jack Crusher goes, well, me and Jack didn't have a lifetime together. We only had a few short years, but I understand when you realize someone you love is lost forever. Yeah. And I guess that's kind of just giving sort of like a I understand moment, but it's interesting because he's her mentor and she's kind of switching it around and sort of like being someone for him to sort of rely on at that point. But it's a really small moment. It's a really small moment though. So I don't know if it's hard to say sometimes.
It's not unusual for, these.
To feel loved by anyone?
These where's
it's not unusual.
Where's your cat? We need to get the cat points.
Where's your cat?
Maybe that'll get your cat to show up. Now you got the headphones on. Okay.
Why do you need why do you need my cat? Just distract me or something?
No, I like the cat. I like
I like the cat too, and I'm glad you like the cat. And I'm just wondering, like, what made you think of the cat?
Because I glanced over and previously the cat was sitting on your shoulder, and now it is no longer sitting on your shoulder. No big deal. No big deal. I was mainly getting to the point that while we've been
trying to distract me,
we've been talking about these mentor-mentee relationships. It's important to note that these are not static relationships, right? Relationships ebb and flow and adjust through time, and it is not at all unusual for
to feel loved by anyone.
It's not at all strange for men.
Because people are strange when you're a stranger.
You're gonna explode. Okay. All right. Okay.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Fuck through that.
We're trying. We're doing our best. What I was trying to say is it's not unusual. It's not strange for a mentor-mentee relationship to over time flip. where the person who, say you're a grad student, you work for a professor, and the professor helps your career and teaches you all this important stuff. Write a bunch of papers together. You go on to have your own excellent career, and then over time, you might end up teaching something new to your mentor, your professor, whoever it might be, or if not teaching something new, serving in some capacity to help that person through whatever challenges they might be facing in life. Because as people's lives move on, they're always facing new and different challenges. And yes, Beverly doesn't have the exact same experience as her mentor in that Remember Me episode, but she has similar experience that from a different angle she can provide some the minimum solace in this case, if not any other form of advice. Which was basically, if I recall correctly, came down to your life will go on. It's a terrible thing that's happened, but your life will go on.
I agree. What about the episode? What do you think about the episode The Enemy?
Bob? What about Bob?
No, The Enemy.
Sure.
Enemy? What are you saying?
The Enemy
with
the enemy with the Worf, with the whole Worf. There was an episode of back in the day. There was a show called Give Me a Break with Nell Carter.
Crazy. Give me a break. Yeah. Oh, that I didn't want.
That was the Kit Kat commercial. I think you were singing. Yeah. I don't know I don't remember the theme song for the show. Give Me a Break.
She says, "Give me a break."
Well, there's this.
She sings this song.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's I forget what the name of the episode of Give Me a Break is called, but like it's about like this kid, about the son, and there's this child entertainer, and the child entertainer needs blood, but it turns out he's like a real jerkhead, see if you can make the parallel, figure out what that episode's about based upon The Enemy, which is the Romulan.
Yes. Oh, the blood donation business. Yes.
From Worf, and Worf didn't want to give the Romulan the donation because Worf doesn't like Romulans, and so there was some prejudice there. And then the Romulan turns out didn't want
quite a bit.
So yeah, I think
the Romulan was like, I don't want the Klingon blood. They were both.
Yeah, they were both like this. In the episode of Give Me a Break, it was like I think the guy's name was like Captain Jerk. He was some child entertainer, and he turned out to like he was racist. There was the deal with it. So he didn't want a blood transfusion.
I got you. He didn't want.
But it only.
Black person.
Yeah, but it only went one way in that episode because they wanted to give him the blood donation. This one, it kind of went both ways. But I mean, I guess you could kind of say she tried to get Worf to sort of put aside his prejudices and help out the Romulan that was dying, So I guess you could kind of say like, she was trying to she was trying to convince him, I guess. But I mean,
I don't think she didn't in the end.
No, she didn't, which was a real bummer. But I kind of respect it that they didn't do that. I was like, whoa, that's really heavy.
I think that it is. Sometimes you have Star Trek come at a moral question, and it either picks a fairly straightforward and easy moral question, or it
like Tuvix.
No, Tuvix I would say is a less than straightforward thing. But the idea being that they pick a position, right? And they say, okay, we're going to pick this position. I think it was good in that episode with The Enemy where in a casual syndicated sci-fi show, it might be difficult to, especially given the style of Star Trek, it might be difficult to adequately examine all the angles and philosophical positions from Worf, the Romulan, Beverly's own position which was sort of a more like trying to avoid prejudice. Picard, of course, in that case, there were political, if I recall correctly, there were political and strategic ramifications too of having this Romulan die on the ship versus be saved on the ship. So there were lots of different motivations at play in that episode, making it a very interesting episode. I think if they had sort of finished that episode as just automatically assuming that Dr. Crusher's position was the correct one, even if many people agree that it was, that would undermine that episode a little bit.
Well, so there was moments she said, first of all, she was all like super trying to coax him. She was all being like, Lieutenant, come on, sit down. Yeah, trying to be all pull the nice card, just try to ease him into this.
Would you like some prune juice? I got some tasty. I got some tasty prune juice for you. Why don't you sit get some prune juice?
I know he likes prune
on opera.
I think she would have offered him some
milk, warm, a dash of nutmeg.
Nutmeg.
She likes nutmeg a
Like
lot.
a warrior's spice.
But then later
Yeah.
she's all like
Gawk
she's
in
so
With Gawk swimming in it. A dash of nutmeg.
I mean she's lecturing him, saying, telling him how the Romulan didn't murder your parents and you're the only one who can save his life. And then she's like, his life's coming to an end. I thought you should see him again. It's not too late. So it's kind of,
he's all like writhing in pain and sad and dying.
so I mean, I guess it's like an attempt, but once again, yeah, is that a mentorship moment? I don't know.
It's a different. It's tricky because that's a slightly different relationship, and the context is she's trying to get a specific person to do a specific thing, which is her preferred course of action, and she's having trouble navigating that because the person she's talking to is from one perspective recalcitrant, from a different perspective just standing up to his own personal ideals, which is like, I'm not going to help this person. It's easy to be on war for that, but I mean, there are people who won't take blood donations because of religious concerns, because they interpret it as eating blood, which is prohibited to them. And from one perspective, you might think, well, that's ridiculous. From another perspective, there's lots of doctors who are working on ways to accomplish what you need to with a blood transfusion without transfusing blood, synthetic things like that. So it's an interesting topic and idea. Mentorship, I don't know. I think it's the kind of thing that might feed into a future mentorship opportunity when Beverly relates to somebody else how she had to deal with that particular scenario.
Okay, well, I think I know what your answer will be. What do you guys think about this moment then? Let's see if you can guess it from the sound clips.
Come on, Geordie. Just try it once. It is not as hard as you think. I'm telling you, you will be terrific.
It's
You were terrific!
dancing, right? Is it trying to get Geordie to dance?
He's trying to singing the from Pirates of Penzance, performing Pirates
Very
of
model of a modern major general. Animal, vegetable, and mineral.
Yeah, she was all rooting him on, She was all being like, you'll be great, Geordie. But then once again, kind of like what you said, she just wants him to be in the play, but she wouldn't want him to be in the musical if he was no good, right? So she's trying to motivate him, be like, come on, Geordie, you can do it.
I actually take issue with your latter point because I think Dr. Crusher, I think it's important to bring up her artistic side, her theater side that they bring in with the dancing and the musical theater and stuff. In that case, though, it's more I think is more an analog to the elementary school teacher who just was trying to get all the students to participate.
Yeah.
It's like you need people to fill out the roles. So it doesn't matter because Geordie does not seem like he's comfortable.
No.
Again, I see Dr. Crusher a few years later citing that as an example of where she overreached, where she put her own needs in front of one of her colleagues, and that she would advise against that.
Well, so we've got she's of course a great doctor, and she has to sort of tell people to chill out as a doctor, and then she's a great captain, as we've seen. She has to tell people she told Picard to chill out as a captain, and she's not only the dancing doctor, as she's like doesn't want to be known. Although I don't know why she wouldn't think that someone wouldn't pick up the fact that she's a dancing doctor. You remember there was an episode she's like, I don't want to be known as the dancing doctor. It's like, well, you're already involved in musical theater. It's not a far stretch to think that you're a good dancer as well, But she runs all the productions, most of the productions anyways. So it's like she's in all these leadership roles of like doctor,
director,
director and captain and probably good choreographer.
In real life, Gates McFadden, she does choreography, except when she does choreography, she lists her name as Cheryl McFadden. She did the choreography for The Labyrinth, intriguingly enough. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, now you do. Now you learn some little thing every day. That's what we try to do on the It's Got Star Trek podcast. It's a bunch of nonsense mostly, but we try to have one or two little insights creep in there, sneak in as you're mowing the lawn or vacuuming or you're sort of putting together a puzzle, and you're sort of this is just on in the background.
What kind of puzzle? Like a jigsaw puzzle or like a model puzzle?
What's the difference between like a jigsaw puzzle is the puzzle, right? That's what we think of.
That's where you put. No, I mean, different people think of different things when they think of puzzle, but a jigsaw puzzle is where you put the picture together with the cardboard.
With a little, and it's all like this. Right?
Yeah, but well, it's more like this. It's more like this. Where like a model is like this. A model is like this.
You have to explain what you're doing.
A model. I'm explaining it. Model is when you like.
We see because we're on the video. we can do it visually instead of having auditory. So like we're getting to do all our finger.
Oh yeah,
whips.
you're right. Okay,
But
so a jigsaw puzzle is like this. This is a jigsaw puzzle. A model is like this. That's a model.
Okay, all right. All right. Okay. I do expect we'll probably be releasing this in audio only format as a bonus episode. So that this brief segment here will encourage you to go watch the video so you can see what hand motions Dan was using that sort of made Jesse and I a little bit awkward.
Is that the best you can do?
So yeah, leader as a mother. She's like super leader. She's amazing leader. We know she's a leader, and there's a lot of implied mentorship that goes along with being a leader, as was shown in Descent Part 2, for example, what I brought up before, where Tate was all nervous because she was new at the position. She didn't want to mess up, and Beverly was like, "You can do it," and then she did it, even though it was risky. And then like she's got all these moments where she's just her general personality of being soothing to somebody who's got anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And like, which is super important to be able to do that. Like I was saying, like I already said earlier, is like when your anxiety builds up, you don't want your leader getting anxious as a result. The leader needs to calm you down, and she can do that. And that requires a certain sort of a wisdom that kind of takes be like, okay, it's all good. This is what you need to do here, or no, it's great. Whatever. I think try to sort of highlight their strengths, be soothing, give them some
Milk, warm, a dash of nutmeg.
and that's just that right there, the milk warm with nutmeg, that's a microcosm for everything that Beverly can do. She can able to calm and soothe, but she can also kick ass when she needs to. She's super duper smart. So we already know that she commands tons of respect.
I think a couple things, like because I had mentioned earlier the whole idea of there's the on-screen mentorship, which we've talked a little bit about. Then there's the implied mentorship, which we've already talked a little bit about. But one of the things I was thinking about was, they made her chief of Starfleet Medical in season 2. That's why she wasn't on the show. Now we know the real behind the scenes reason is a bunch of behind the scenes terrible nonsense, where Gates McFadden was fired from the show for season 2 and was replaced with Dr. Pulaski, but then she was brought back in season 3. But in universe, they said, okay, she left to go hang out at Starfleet Medical and lead that up. One presumes that if Starfleet is going to put her in charge, it's at least in part because of her capacity to model the type of behavior and professionalism that Starfleet wants to see filter out throughout their ranks, right? That's the type of person you pick. It's not somebody who's just competent at filling out forms and selecting duty rosters. And ideally, you want somebody who's going to, by example, say, this is the type of person you need to be if you're going to be a Starfleet medical officer.
And someone to model off of, basically, is what you said. Not jigsaw puzzle off of. Okay. You want to model off of them. You want to model off of them.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Not jigsaw puzzle.
Not jigsaw puzzle. Not that other wiggly finger business. Model versus jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah,
indeed. And now moving into the sort of more meta examples, which I think a lot of these can, of course, apply in universe as well. But I think for a lot of us, how we interact with Dr. Crusher as a character, especially those of us who grew up watching her on our TV screens, on our syndicated television screens. There are all these. What's so weird about that?
I mean, it's just funny that you like.
There was a small rectangle of screen.
It's like you started TV screens was already like more than you had to say, but then you were like syndicated television screens or something. You were
as opposed to network television. Or
I just thought it was funny.
Or the HBO. We didn't have the HBO growing up. Either, yeah. We didn't have that. We had cable, but we didn't have the HBO.
It seemed like a little vampy. That's all. I wasn't going to say anything, but you asked.
It was a little vampy. I'm looking at my notes.
I know. I was amused. I thought it was funny. I liked it. You got a chuckle out of me.
All right. I do. I mean, this is one of the main reasons we do this whole podcast thing is that I do enjoy getting the occasional chuckle out of you.
You were terrific.
But yeah, so thinking about things that I've been influenced by, and I think this is I'm probably speaking for a huge proportion of the fandom. I remember, and I think we've even touched base on this a little bit. I remember how often there would be an emergency and Dr. Crusher responded by being very calm about it. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's really helped me in both my professional and personal life. Is
Yeah.
like when something goes wrong, you shouldn't freak out. If ideally you actually get calmer so you can slow down. And even though it's an emergency, it's really good. And almost every episode that's a Dr. Crusher saves the ship or whatever episode, that's what's happening. She's stopping and she's saying, okay, let's get the facts. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's do it. And that's I think, a very important lesson to convey.
And to bring it up, then just to reiterate again, I know, but I keep wanting to bring it up because it's so relevant. Again with the Tate, Dan. Because because you're talking about her. She stays calm in high stress situations, and not only that, she can get others to stay calm in high stress situations. So
I think good point. And beyond that, it's also that it comes down to when she's solving these problems, right? That's what it is. It's a problem solving thing, and going and solving problems through problem solving, right? Problem solving is like a specific method if you want to think about it that way, sort of like the scientific, whatever you want to call it, but the idea being that you do it in an organized, structured way. It's not throwing, oh my God, what the hell are we going to do? Try this, click these buttons. It's like, no, we stop. And now let's take stock of the situation. And then in a methodological fashion, we can go through and try to find the solution to this problem. And yes, you see, we see lots of Star Trek characters do that, but I do think that Beverly really stands up. Cause and effect is a very good example.
I was just about to bring cause and effect the whole time. He was just like, this is weird. Let's do a medical scan on the first one, and then the next one it's like, that's weird. Let's do this. And she kept being like, yeah. And then
she recognized that something was off, and she wasn't going to ignore it. She was going to say, okay, I have enough confidence in myself to validate my concerns, and based off of that, I'm then going to take these extra steps to try to figure out what's going on.
Even in Remember Me, when she was in a situation that would make anyone feel like they're questioning
literally
mind-boggling.
I mean, it's a mind-boggling sci-fi concept, and if you look too closely at it, doesn't make too much sense.
Right? Well, it's okay. But the fact that people are disappearing from one moment to the next and no one else seems to notice, like, that'll make you think you're really losing it. And even then, and you can tell she's getting worked up like anybody, but she's not collapsing to the floor, like going, like crying in a fetal position. Like she's figuring it out, but like but she also does a good job of being like, what the hell is going on here? This is too weird. But she's got her S together, you know.
Well, it's also speaking of having one's S together, Dan. A lot of it comes down to Beverly wants she has the knowledge and experience to apply to problems, and she also knows that sometimes she needs to get more knowledge or experience, right? She doesn't just sit on her laurels and say, okay, I learned everything I need to learn and that's it. We always see her reading medical journals, science journals. She's always doing experiments, like again in Cause and Effect when she's growing her little moss and stuff. There's always that kind of thing going on. She knows she needs to keep learning stuff, and she advocates and values learning. And I think that's another lesson that I got from her. Again, we see that in other Star Trek characters as well, but in Beverly, it's sort of a real holistic fashion. It's just ever present. She's just always there, learning and learning.
Cerebral blood flow looks normal.
Jordy, it's as if you're growing new eyes. His brainwaves indicate early neuropathway degeneration. There's a 13% increase in the acetylcholine of the Get him to sickbay.
Their DNA is warped somehow, and it's distorting their entire cellular chemistry.
Here's one of my favorites.
I want them off all the drugs. They're not doing anything.
I don't know why I like that one so much.
I want them off all the drugs. They're not doing anything.
I want them off all the drugs.
All the drugs.
Get them off all the drugs.
Even the cannabis? Do you consider cheese a drug, Doctor?
Cheese?
Cheese. Well, some people say cheese is addictive because of the, tastiness.
Because of the riboflavins? Are there there's no riboflavins in cheese?
No, because of the umami. You got that. Anything with umami. People are like, that umami shit is too good. That flavor is.
Just know there's a parasite at work.
Yeah.
In this episode, she said this twice.
White cell count is elevated. 0.6 of a degree temperature is elevated.
She talked about white blood cell counts twice.
She's a doctor. That's what they do.
You're just playing.
So now, is this? No, I'm not. Look, listen to this one.
White cell count is elevated. 0.6 of a degree temperature.
Now listen to this one.
White cell count is elevated.
Two different ones. It sounds like the same one.
Different tune. Now, what happens?
Now, is this?
Can you play them at the same time?
I can play them. I'm doing the thing where I'm holding the mic, so it's really hard. I'll play them really close.
I know that, and
Hold
that's
on.
why I'm asking you to do
Put
this.
down the mic.
White cell count is elevated. White cell count is elevated.
0.6 of a degree temperature.
Now, is the next one I'm going to play? Is it biological or mental?
He's suffering from classic rejection syndrome.
Well, presumably in that case, it's biological.
Yeah, I
same
guess
thing
it's kind of.
rejection, but you've set it up to generate a false context that the person, the subject of the sentence is being rejected by a potential partner.
Yes,
Do I
right.
have
It
that
was.
correct? Do I have that
I think
correct?
you nailed it. I couldn't have
All
said it better myself. Okay.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here in a second, but a couple other things I did mention before: compassion, but I think again that's something that I got a lot of from Beverly, which we didn't necessarily get from others. Look, Picard,
Certainly not from.
He's
Dr.
dead.
Picard's compassionate, but he's compassionate in a sort of elevated philosophical way. Beverly's compassionate at the point of care, like at the
You
bedside.
are killing innocent people.
She's so upset about that.
Well, yes, and I think a lot of people would be upset about that, but it drives.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. A lot of
But-
well, yes, but I would hope so.
I mean, for real, like Picard might be like, he'd be like, that's too bad. That sucks.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly that's what Picard sounds like, right? He was like, well, this is
You
stupid.
have such a casual attitude toward killing.
You can
Yeah.
tell she's really emotionally affected.
But okay, look, Star Trek in general is competence porn, right? A lot of people who are Star Trek fans have and this is not a term I've come up with. This is an
Okay.
existing term, competence porn, or
I never heard that.
having a competence fetish, which is where you
Okay.
get sort of intellectually and sometimes physically turned on by the idea of people who are just highly competent at doing their job. People who are into NASA are often like this. People who are into Star Trek, as opposed to some other sci-fi where it's all everything's just going to hell and not working properly or whatever. And in fact, it's why there's sometimes some pushback when Star Trek explores areas where they have Starfleet officers that are maybe not the brightest bulbs, right? Like there's the trouble with Edward, or Barclay is an example where he's got some issues that he's dealing with that impact his capacity to do stuff. Sometimes people push back and they're like, this is not Star Trek because we want all our people to be top of the line. Now, of course,
I don't know who you are.
we've argued on the podcast that there's room for all of this because in a realistic world, not everybody is on the Enterprise, on the flagship. That's part of what's fun about Lower Decks. There's people who they're great. They are competent Starfleet officers, but there's a reason maybe
It's not
why
the Enterprise.
Yeah, there's a reason why they're not on the flagship because they do have some of these flaws and stuff. And it's interesting to do that.
You should be drawing, not killing people.
But in terms of
Just
Star
try
Trek,
it once. It is not as hard as you think.
in terms of Star Trek being competence porn, Beverly Crusher is one of the people who's high up on that list of, it's not that she always gets it right, but she approaches things with just, it's so laudable the way she approaches things. You want to hang out with her. You want to be her. You want to be mentored by her because
Well done, Tate.
She just fixes it. She's like, well, I'm going to do this now.
exactly right, and that's another aspect of it that is just like she's just like a really excellent example of somebody you would like to follow, as opposed to, and I'm no Pulaski hater, I know plenty of people are, but the Pulaski's got a different thing going on where it's like, yeah, she's a very competent doctor, but she's got all these other personality flaws.
Her first interaction with Data was she called him Data, and he was like,
Yeah.
Data. She's like, huh? And he's like, my name is Data. She's like, what difference does it make? And it's like, geez, man,
You're a terrible person.
it's my name. It's Data. It's
Yeah, I
not
was going
Data.
to get to that if you didn't, because,
Oh.
Dr. Crusher was never mean to Data.
No, and she was one of the few people that Data trusted to know about how to turn him off.
Yeah, exactly.
Which did, of course,
Yeah.
backfire on at least one occasion. But in the game, which, by the way, I joined the Crusher Convo to discuss TNG's The Game not too long ago. If you scroll back in the feed a little bit, you can check that out. It was a really fun episode to be on. Any other final concluding points?
No more killing.
That was kind of a mentor moment. She told a bunch of kids, like at the end of the higher ground, a bunch of kids, after dude died, a bunch of kids came up with the guns, and she looked at him and was like, "No more killing," and they're like,
No
"Oh,"
more
and
killing.
they learned.
It's like, if you do, I'll kill you.
No, she told them no more killing, and they were like, "Oh, you're right. I shouldn't kill anymore. This is not a good thing to do." And then they put their guns away and they turned around. So she mentored them not to be terrorists anymore.
But then when she beamed away, they're like, "Nah, we're just fooling."
Nah,
Yeah, probably.
just kidding.
We're just kidding.
Just
Because the
kidding.
Enterprise never actually goes back to check and see if
No.
any of their
Right.
solutions
That's the
were
other ship.
long.
That's the point of Cerritos, right? The Cerritos does that.
If they
They
get
should have an
sent,
episode about that. Yeah, they should,
they
they should
get
have an
sent.
episode about that.
because Lower Decks has pointed out, they
Yeah.
often don't get sent until it's too late, and there's a
Yeah.
new problem on whatever the planet
They might
was.
send the San Diego instead.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Well, I think
Lieutenant,
that-
his
that
life
was
is coming to an end. I thought it
Yes.
important for you to see him again. It's
Okay.
not too late to change your mind.
interesting cadence there, Beverly. It's not too late to
late.
change your mind. But yes, thank you. That was a fun conversation about Beverly and mentorship.
This is what I wanted to play earlier in that scene with Worf telling Worf to, like, that she should help that guy. Look at how she's being so like coaxing and friendly.
Lieutenant, good. Come in. Please sit down.
She's always begins it like she's about to be like, yes, come in, let's have a talk.
It's very
And then-
similar to when she's trying to get Wesley to play the game in the game. Except
Yeah.
it's even weirder in that episode.
So she knows she has to begin it all nice and then drop
Mhm.
the what she knows is going to be the big number on him.
The big old number. All right. So that will, I think, do it for us this week. Let me look at my notes for the concluding portion of this. This
There
little
will be
video program.
profound medical repercussions.
He's
All right.
suffering from classic rejection syndrome.
You
Concluding
won't survive.
The damage is too extensive.
He's
thanks
dead.
so much for watching / listening / casually consuming this episode in the background. Thanks again to Jesse. I'm thanking people.
This
is
is
not-
in the background
I mean, consuming this
It's a
episode.
podcast, yes.
'cause
while
it's like-
they are in the background.
no,
No, we're in the background.
they put this on the television, and then
Oh,
they're around the house cleaning up stuff, petting the cat. So,
oh,
sort of
I thought you were doing some kind of
forlornly
generic.
a letter, just that we
I
don't
thought-
know about, but they're just like reading this letter and they're forlorn.
I thought you were doing some kind of generic thing where it's like, thank you, insert name here, for watching the insert podcast name here podcast.
No.
No, you were
I
doing
might
something.
have been talking in that sort of cadence, but that
Okay.
was not my intention. So yes,
Okay, sorry. Go
just so
for
we're
it.
all clear. Thanks so much for watching. That's new. Listening
Mhm. Yeah.
and or how about that? And or casually consuming this content that we have provided.
Thank you.
In the background while you do other things. Thank you. We do really and sincerely appreciate that.
Thank you.
Especially this time, because it's the first time we've ever done any video stuff. So we got to do
Yeah.
more, finger wiggly stuff, which is the main reason we wanted to do the video.
Models,
and
jigsaw
faces.
puzzle,
And oh yes, and faces.
jigsaw puzzle, models.
Yes. And we do definitely want to send sincere and
Models.
profound thanks to Jesse and Michelle from Crusher Convo
Thank you.
for putting together Beverly Crusher
Thank
Day.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's got Star Trek podcast for being an awesome podcast in their own right, and just adding so much to the Star Trek online content universe. It's really, really exciting to be even tiny bit associated with Crusher Convo. We're really excited about that. So we appreciate the invitation.
It's super cool.
If you, at the end of all this, if you're getting to this point and you're like,
These guys might have something.
What?
No.
these guys,
What?
they've piqued my interest in some fashion or
Later.
another. We lost all goodwill that we had generated the last hour or so. But yes, if indeed, despite all this, you'd like to hear more from us, you can find the It's Got Star Trek podcast. Well over 200 episodes at this stage on any podcast player. You can find us on YouTube, all that good stuff. If you enjoyed this video presentation, let us know. We'll try to do more of this. We're interested in doing more of
Where
this.
would you go?
We had a good
YouTube.
time. Alternatively, you can also, of course, go to our website, www.itsgotstartrek.com, where we have all our podcasts and stuff, links to
Who
everything.
told you that?
Or you can find us all over social media. Right, it's down at the bottom of the screen right there. At It's Got Star Trek. Pretty much all the whatever the services are. Yeah, there you go.
Look how big my finger is compared to the font.
Oh, your finger is so big. Yeah,
Compared to the font.
Yes, and Dan's got the thing. It's going to even be bigger on some of these 70 and 80 inch televisions that people have these days. Okay. But yes, you can find us social media, etc. Again, thank you. Happy Beverly Crusher Day.
I'm crushing that head.
Good one. And we will see you all at some point. No, we won't. Well, we're not going to see you unless we. Okay, I won't get into the details of why we're probably not going to see you. You may see us. Well, I just didn't want to, what if we do like a fan meetup or something? I don't want to tell everybody that they're not going to see us.
It's creepy. Yeah.
When you go to sleep at night, we're going to see you.
All right. How about this? What my plan is I'm going to click our little video with the little rotating thing, and that'll be the end of this, and we'll fade out, and I'll play our theme music again. How's that? Oh, by the way, Dan made the theme music. He's awesome. So, with
You're
all
pretty
that,
cool too. Patrick, you're cool. Jesse, you're cool. You guys are really cool.
It has been.
And you are cool.
Star Trek.
Everyone at home.
All right, hold on. I'm going to click this button here, and we should
Star Trek 57
let it
M23,
play.
take 2.
And then normally it's at the beginning of the show. This time
It's
gonna
the
be-
end of the show.
That's okay. We'll just let us do its thing. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night or day or
Thanks.
whatever. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
It's the It's Got Star Trek podcast.